You are holding a man's face in your two hands, and he has been dead for 2,000 years, and he has not been born yet. The lamp gutters. Around you, in the long shed, 1,000 soldiers of clay stand shoulder to shoulder in the dark, waiting. You press your thumb into the wet jaw, drag a line for the mouth, and a stranger looks back at you who has never existed and never will. You give him an old man's tired eyes. Then you turn him over, and on the underside of his collar, where no living person will ever look again, you cut your name. You are a sculptor in the army of the first emperor of China, and your whole life's work is to give faces to the dead, and to leave none of your own. You were not born to clay. You were born to millet on the brown Loess plain, where the dust gets into everything, your food, your eyes, the cracks of your hands. Your father farms a strip of land he does not own. In Qin, a man owns very little. The state owns him. Everything here is counted. Your name is on a wooden slip in a county office, and so is your father's, and so is every ox and every bushel. You grow up under that counting, and every harvest, the same rumour. Far to the west, at the foot of Mount Li, the king is building something into the earth. Men go to work on it. They do not come home. The clerk comes in the dry season when the millet is in and there is no work in the fields. He has a roll of bamboo slips and a brush, and he reads names, and one of them is yours. You are 17. You are not asked. You are walked west for many days along the edge of the great Loess country, in a column of men from your county, and the whole way you carry one cold certainty in your chest. You are being marched to dig the king's tomb, and you will be buried in it. Your father is not in the column, he is too old to be counted now, and he did not say goodbye well. You think you will never see him, or the millet, or the dust of home again. But Mount Li is not a grave, it is a city. You come over the last rise, and below you spreads a manufactory the size of a town, clay pits and ramps, long open sheds, kilns breathing red, yards bright with paint. The noise is enormous, and the strangest thing is what fills the sheds, rank upon rank of men. Men of clay, life-size, taller than you, standing in silent companies, and not one of them is finished, because not one of them yet has a face. An overseer counts you, marks a slip, hands you a wedge of wet grey clay, and points you at the bottom of the line. You came expecting to dig your own grave. Instead, you have been handed a soldier and told to help raise an army that will never die. At the bottom of the line, you make legs. You coil rope after rope of clay and beat them solid with a wooden paddle, because the legs must bear the weight of everything above. It is brutal, and it is endless, and it is watched. The overseer carries bamboo tally slips and a bronze seal, and he checks every piece against a quota, and if a figure cracks in the drying, he docks the whole gang's ration and writes the fault down against your names. You learn the fear of the tally faster than you learn the clay. You learn the assembly of it too, how the legs are solid and the torsos hollow and paddled thin, how the arms are made apart and the heads made apart, so that 100 men can build one man. Everything in Qin is made this way, even an army of ghosts. In your second year a kiln is rushed. The fires are pushed too hard to make a quota, and a whole firing cracks, a season of work ruined in a night, and the gang is called to answer for it. You could stay silent. You have been finishing heads in secret after the others sleep, stealing clay, teaching your own hands the thing the masters do, and to show one is to admit the theft. But the gang will be punished as one. So you choose. You go to the master sculptor, and you put into his hands a head you made in the dark. An old man, frightened, utterly alive. He turns it over a long time. He does not ask about the kiln again. The next morning he takes you off the legs. His own hands have begun to shake, too much for fine work now, and he presses his worn bronze knife into your palm and closes your fingers over it. You are done making legs. You are going to make faces. Here is the secret of the army. There is no secret. The heads come from a few molds, a handful of blank base faces, and then each one is finished by hand to be a different man. You learn to read a stranger into clay, a scar of a wrinkle, a heavier brow, a younger jaw, the flat stare of a veteran, the soft cheek of a boy who should not be here. One head you cannot leave alone. You give him your father's jaw before you understand you have done it. You set him in the third rank and do not go back to look. The emperor's command is that the guard must look alive. 8,000 men, and no two the same, because a dead king wants living soldiers. And the army keeps growing. Each season, a new company is modelled on the troops of a kingdom Qin has just swallowed, and you sculpt the faces of the very men being conquered. In the year you become a true hand, the king of Qin finishes the last of them and names himself Qin Shi Huang, first emperor of all under heaven. The work doubles. So does the dread. The overseer who once docked your ration brings you a head now and waits. He does not raise his tally. He waits for your nod. When it comes, he carries the head to the kiln himself, and the master shows you the last thing, the thing every artisan does and no one speaks of. On a hidden surface of each figure, under an arm, behind a collar, on the sole of a foot, you cut your name. Not for praise, for the tally, so that if the figure fails, the state knows whose hand to blame. You cut yours in small, careful seal script into the first soldier you finish entirely alone. Your name on a man who will stand for the rest of time. And as you set him into his rank, the next figure goes in beside him, and his shoulder hides your name, and it is gone. You have signed your immortality in a place built to be never seen again. The emperor is dying, and he refuses to. He drinks elixirs of mercury to live forever, and they make him stranger and sicker, and still the tomb mound on the skyline must be finished before his heart stops, or all of it is for nothing. And a rumor hardens into a fact that no one will say aloud. When the tomb is sealed, the craftsmen who built its inside, who know the mercury rivers, the crossbows set to fire on their own, will be sealed inside it. So the secrets die with the men. You are spared. You make the outer army, not the inner dark. But your master, the one whose knife is in your hand, took the honor of the inner work years ago. There is no choice to save him. There is only what you choose to do with it. You take a soldier you have finished, and under his arm, beside your own name, you cut your master's. It is the only grave marker he will ever have. You give a dead clay man the memory of a living one. The emperor dies on a journey, far from home, and they hide his death. They pack his carriage with salted fish so no one smells the truth until they reach the capital. At Mount Li, the army is finished. It is painted in colors that hurt the eyes. Vermilion, violet, a blue you have no name for, green and white and black, 8,000 bright men in their ranks. Then the timber roofs go on, and the reed mats, and the earth. The colors go down into the dark, the kilns cool, the gangs are counted one last time and sent home. You are an old man now, standing at the lip of a pit, looking down at 20 years of your own hands going under the ground. A boy holds out his hands, a clay-smeared boy from the legs, the way you once were. You press your master's knife into his palm and close his fingers over it, the way it was closed over yours. Then the last earth goes on, and the army stands in the black, every face a different man, every maker forgotten, your name and your master's scratched under one clay arm, where no living eye will ever read them. The emperor feared he would be forgotten. His name will ring down every century that comes. Yours will not. But understand what you have done. More than 2,000 springs from now, in a year you cannot imagine, farmers near Mount Li will dig a well, and a shovel will strike a clay head, and the army will come up into the sun. The faces you gave 8,000 men will be the most famous faces on earth, and you will still be down there, under an arm, in the dark, exactly where you put yourself. You gave them their faces, you kept none. And one spring morning, very far from now, they open their eyes.